Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast, where we share video games. I'm your host, Tyler.
And I am your host, Zach. I almost said Tyler.
Why?
I don't know.
We have several things to talk about today. As if you listen to our previous episode, we had talked about doing an episode on Scorn for our last October show. That wasn't a very good game, and we'll talk about it for a minute. So we decided to just not do an episode on it. We don't really like to be super negative unless it's warranted, which I think it's warranted, but it wouldn't have
made for a very interesting episode. Really,
it wouldn't have filled a big episode. So we'll just talk about it for a moment here, and then we played both. We both played Uncharted 4, and then I played half of Lost Legacy. Finally played Uncharted 4. Dude,
can't believe it took us this long.
Yes. I'm kind of glad I played it now for the first time. I think it hits way different for me.
Yeah, being married changes a lot about playing this game.
Yes, definitely. So I'm very happy I did wait. It really hits... doesn't hit home, like, my marriage isn't on the verge of divorce, but
I didn't lie to my wife and go halfway around the world to pursue some forgotten treasure.
None of that.
I mean, come on. I'm just kidding. No, I always think of that stupid meme format where, like, all these guys everybody thinks these boys are out here looking for, just a blonde girl, nice curves. But, my guys know what we really want to find is Atlantis, an ancient city drowned by Poseidon. And
yes, yeah. I would love to find Atlantis.
Yeah, it'd be great.
We have some, before I actually talk about Atlantis for a minute, we have some whiskey here, bourbon. What's going on?
So I bought a 16-year Aberlour Scotch. So it's a Highland Scotch, Speyside, actually. Speyside
I like
Scotch.
Speyside Scotch.
Yeah,
the best.
and it's so technically Highland, but yeah. Anyway, it's a Speyside Scotch, and it's a sherry bomb. That's kind of what they go for. Everything's these big sherry aged whiskeys. I bought this for a special occasion for my friend's bachelor party. Unfortunately, it was a very old bottle, and so when someone went to open it, the cork broke and fell in. It was very old. I don't know why it did that. But that essentially meant that I had to come and strain it into my crystal decanter here, and I now need to drink a little faster than the others because the crystal decanter is not quite as efficient as a corked bottle.
I'm bringing it on Friday.
I will be bringing it many a place.
It needs to drink it.
But it's very, very good. You're gonna get. Go ahead and pour it. You go ahead and get. You'll get a lot of pretty much everything you get from a sherry bomb whiskey. So it's gonna be like lots of.
How
nuts.
does this pour? Is this a good pour?
It's fine. It's not as bad as you'd think.
All right.
That's quite a bit. Oh wow.
I'm here for quite a bit.
Okay, wonderful. Let's do it. Your exercise is going to be great after this.
Yes, it will be. And I'll be listening to, instead of music when I work out, I listen to podcasts.
Yeah, my boy.
Typically.
Like me.
I will be listening to How to Change Your Mind by a dude that does a lot of shrooms. I forget his name. There's also a new Netflix series.
Graham Hancock?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I don't know who did that. I've only ever read Doors to Perception, which until recently I believed was about shrooms. But it's really about LSD. So, learned that the other day. So this is a great whiskey. Because it's a little bit... cheers. Clink. You're going to get this weird... It's something you'll only know if you've had sherry. You'll only know if you had sherry. It's this kind of weird umami smell and kind of taste to it. But overall, you can get nuttiness, lots of kind of dried fruits, raisins... those kinds of flavors.
Wow, dude, I could drink quite a bit of this.
It's really good,
this is
right?
Good.
Yeah, they make one of my top 5 whiskeys, which is their Abinad release, which is basically this kind of feel, but at 60%. So it's just got a lot.
And what's this at?
This is over 40, but it's under 50.
Okay.
I think it's probably 45-ish.
Yeah, this is good. Oh, you don't need to bring it places to share.
Heard.
I'm over here often enough. That was a lot right here, actually. It doesn't seem like it's that much.
Yeah, you poured quite a bit in these glasses. I get brown sugar on this one. I like it a lot. It's really good. So a good thing to go with some adventure.
Umami smell is an interesting.
Isn't that odd? Yeah. I would encourage anyone who wants to get better at tasting Scotch to go out and buy Oloroso sherries and just drink them. They're very odd to drink. They're definitely not a modern taste, but it'll give you a lot of tools for tasting, especially Highland scotches.
Okay.
So it's good stuff.
You said this is an Aberlour 16?
16, yeah.
Nice. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. It won't run you as much as you'd think. Although prices are climbing for scotch still climbing.
Prices are climbing for everything.
Yeah, fact.
Board games, dude. Board games are getting expensive. I mean, they're already expensive, but I buy a lot of board games, folks. I play a lot. And I've noticed that things are getting up there. The the entry level price for the upcoming Slay the Spire board game is $100.
Oof.
It's just a deck builder.
Oofta.
Yeah.
Where would you like to start?
I would like to start with Atlantis.
Yeah,
bro.
let's go.
Okay, so
wait, are we not talking about Scorn? We're not talking about any of this stuff.
Yeah, I just want to talk
All
about.
right, let's go.
This show is so fun. So because we've played Uncharted, you have been reading a lot of adventure stuff,
Yes.
trying to watch a lot of adventure
down the
stuff.
swashbuckler rabbit hole.
Yes, which I definitely recommend. Sinbad.
Yeah.
The animated Sinbad. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so maybe it doesn't hold up. It was a lot of fun though. The world is flat in this, and they're trying to get. I forget where they're trying to go, but they sail off the edge of the earth after tying their boat to a rock that's sticking out of the ocean, and there's like these constellations are coming alive. So they sail off the edge of the earth, and they're being pulled out of like Earth's gravitational field. But because they're stuck to they're tethered to this rock, they swing back around and hit a constellation with their boat, and then sail away from it.
That's so
It's fun.
freaking
It's a
cool.
lot of fun. But sort of went down a different path. This stuff is so much fun. You know, the treasure hunting, swashbuckling stuff. It's a lot of fun. I also really like, like ancient aliens and stuff like that. A lot of fun for me. I'm not saying I believe in ancient aliens, but it's fun. Okay. So Graham Hancock and what's his name? Randall Carlson were on Joe Rogan again at the same time that I was like in the middle of my Uncharted 4 playthrough. So I listened to that. Graham Hancock's got a new show on Netflix about an ancient apocalypse, the Younger Dryas. And it's an 8-episode series, each one focusing on different megalithic structures around the world. They only talk about Atlantis a little bit, but what the show is really about is there being an advanced civilization during the Ice Age that was then wiped out by the Younger Dryas, and when the Ice Age flooded the world, like right there at the end of the Ice Age, this advanced civilization, he thinks, maybe taught the hunter-gatherers of the time, which we would be told were the only people on the planet at the time. But he makes a very good point that I've never really thought of before. It doesn't really make sense to dismiss the idea that there would be advanced civilizations walking with hunter-gatherers, because we currently live that way. There are tribes that we cannot contact, that don't know anything about us. We have no idea what they are thinking when, a plane flies above Africa or wherever, maybe places on the Amazon. There are hunter-gatherer tribes that are still out there, currently, living on the planet with people that are about to destroy it with nuclear warfare. It's not totally inconceivable. So anyway, it's about that. It's a lot of fun. It's very interesting. It's played to, they kind of lean into it being a little fun with like spooky music and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that brings you in. But there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And Uncharted, just every time I've played one, sort of like reawakens that.
Sure.
And so that's what I've been doing. I got one episode left.
Well then, okay, I was actually going to end with this, but let's get right into it. The best part about playing Uncharted 4, I played the whole game beginning to end with my dad.
Yeah.
So my dad and I, because I played the original series back when I was still living with him. So I lived with him through him and my mom through college. And, I would play games. They got me a PS4, I think a year after it came out. I was not making a lot of money at the time, and it was a nice big Christmas present from them. And it was a good time. And I got the usual games and stuff, but it came with the Uncharted games. It was the console that came with the Legacy collection, or not the Legacy, the Nathan Drake collection, right? So the Uncharted 1, 2, 3. So my dad and I, he'd come in and out, but we played through all of 1, 2, and 3 together. We'd go through, and he'd always be like, "Oh, twist that thing, do that thing," and then he'd solve it with me. Anytime that gunfight would break out, he'd kind of check out a little bit, because it's not as fun to watch as the other stuff.
Yeah, and they're not that great.
So he's really afraid of heights too, and he's very good at being immersed in something. Like when he gets sucked into something, he's lost in it.
All right.
And you can see him in conversation with Dad. Like he's just kind of gets lost in it. So it's really fun to, you jump and you barely make it and you grab, and the camera of course pulls up and there's like this great chasm. He goes, like it's great. Yeah. And it makes me do it too after a while, because you get into it too. You're like, it's great. It's so fun. But to be able to share it with my dad is especially awesome, because my dad, when I was growing up, what kind of stuff did he show me? Obviously, he was, he's a good dad. He showed me Star Wars. But we watched Indiana Jones. One of the earliest books that he bought me that wasn't just a kid's book was A Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. My dad really fostered that adventure sense in me with those things that he shared with me. And so to be able to kind of have this game to share together was really special. And especially because he's been married almost 30 years now and has a very strong marriage, a very good marriage. And he, to see him respond to this game and its kind of central idea it's kind of centered around that marriage, was really good. He had a lot to say and he had a lot to engage with there. So, we had a really good time, together. It was a good time.
Yeah. But Katie was getting pretty invested too. She caught, probably a total of about half the game, plenty of it with Elena or the younger brothers, and she was finding it very interesting. She's like, "What's going on here? This is
good."
This is pretty
My mom
interesting."
walked in and she's like, "This is a video game?" I'm like, "Yeah, Mom." Like,
this is an old one too.
Yeah, I told her this. She's like, "No." Yeah, and she sat and watched for quite a while. It was near the end where you're kind of swimming under the ruins, and
there's not enough of that, dude. It looks so good underwater.
Mom was like,
every time I go down, I'm like, "Oh, I forgot I could do this. Yeah, this is amazing."
Mom was always like, "Is that the sun?" Coming through the water. It was awesome. Yeah, I literally brought the PS5 over to my dad's house and finished that game with a last little stretch there.
Cool. Now you should show her Red Dead Redemption 2 so she could see the sun coming through the skin on people's noses.
Yeah.
Or the testicles shrinking on a horse in winter.
I really like Red Dead 2. As even though playing the game it's kind of like this, where I'm playing the game and the gameplay is very simple, very repetitive. But it's, let's talk about that. We'll come back to adventure. I want to talk about how this game has modular gameplay. This is kind of an idea that I've seen come up where the shooting, you and I are talking about, the shooting is not complex. It is not deep. It is not particularly engaging. The most engaging thing about the combat sections is typically moving throughout the level and finding ways to dispatch people or get away. Like there's a little structure sticking out of the water. You can go under the water. Like, I screwed with that AI so much because it's a well-designed level. But the shooting itself is incredibly basic, incredibly, take cover, they'll throw a grenade, find new cover, shoot. It's very, very simple. But as is the climbing. The climbing is also
incredibly
very simple. The puzzles are pretty easy to figure out what's going on, and then you implement it pretty quick, as all good games should be. So why do people love these games? What is it? And it's because those are modular things that can slot into slow moments, set pieces. You can literally, at the beginning of this game, you take the shooting mechanics, to show Nathan Drake playing Nerf gun in his office because he's missing being on an adventure.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can slot these things into so many places to fit whatever needs to happen for the emotional resonance they're going for. In Uncharted 4, they're going for exactly what was elicited in both of us, that grand bravado, that adventure, that, you know, that boiling heart kind of feel that makes you want to just get on a ship and go somewhere.
Yeah.
You know? And they nail it because every piece of gameplay is there to serve that emotional experience. And they nail it. In fact, this is going to be the one reason that I think I lean more towards Uncharted 4 over Last of Us Part 2 in terms of which game I prefer. I think it's because since it's a video game, Uncharted 4 as an adventure game fits that a little better for me than something like Last of Us 2. For Last of Us 2, the gameplay is superior, I would argue. I mean, I guess people could debate that, but I think you and I agree that the gameplay is superior in Last of Us Part 2. And you could even make the argument that the story is superior. I think they're too different to compare, but you could make the argument because of its depth and its complexity and all these things.
Yeah, they're very different. Yeah. Very different things.
But even if you make that argument, the dissonance, and I'm not talking about ludonarrative dissonance at all. I just mean like the dissonance between delivering those two emotional experiences. Like, I guess it's partially ludonarrative, but I actively enjoy playing Last of Us 2. But the narrative is like really heavy and a downer, and like it's and the gameplay services it by, you know, how close up and brutal it is. So it's not a ludonarrative dissonance thing. It's just that I think as an emotional, I don't even want to say an emotional narrative. It's that emotional experience they're delivering. I think Uncharted 4 is a little bit more conducive as a video game to that adventure narrative, that adventure feeling, than maybe Last of Us 2 is. That is incredibly ill-formed, and it's pretty recent thought for me. I think, though, that it's not a strong enough thing to try to make the claim that I think Uncharted 4 is a better game. I think that's probably why I prefer it, outside of the reason that I prefer swashbucklers over dense, zombie, apocalyptic, sad stories. You know, like excluding that piece of the puzzle. That's the only thing I can think of that would make me lean more towards Uncharted 4 personally. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all of that. We talked a bit before the cast a couple days ago. We sort of moved on to the next game now, but we've talked a bit about this already. I appreciate, and we both appreciate, the balance here. You talked about the modularity of each of the different components that make up the game, but you didn't mention so much the very precise balance of the complexity of each of those things when mixed together. Like, if the puzzles were a little more complex and instead of spending 5 minutes on one, you spent 15 or 20, that would completely interrupt the flow of not just the game flow, but the whole experience that they're going for. And, if there were more things for you to do in combat. Again, very, very basic combat here. If it were more complex, while not being the central focus of the game, which it isn't, by the way, there's actually not that much compared to the overall length of the game. I don't think there's a ton of combat. Feels like
more climbing, and even just, I love this, just walking through a place you just walked into or look around.
Yeah.
Walking.
So there's a lot of that. There's just the walking, then there's the climbing, then there's the combat, then there's the cutscenes, the story moments,
the puzzles.
Then there's the puzzles. All of these things are very fine-tuned, so you can just start to plug them in for each of the different chapters, and you get something that flows effortlessly. Now, I'm really bad at video games, so I was doing pretty poorly with the combat on the basic difficulty. Instead of knocking it down, I put on the lock-on aiming because I know there's not a ton of things to dig into with the combat. That's not the point of the game. I mentioned before, it's not like I'm playing Returnal. It's not the point. So I didn't mind turning on the auto lock, which does not make it, it's not an instant win. You're still having to focus on
positioning.
Yeah. Positioning is still the focal
That
point
is
there.
the combat, really, is positioning. Like, that's
Yeah.
That's it.
It was just I was
One of my favorite
doing
things to
poor
do
with
was
the
just
aim.
to break out of position and charge and just like, change up and watch the AI go, oh no, like have to like recenter everything because they're like, what is this? He's insane.
Yeah. No, you do break it though with the sniper rifle because those are pretty much one hit KOs.
kills. Even if you just hit their leg. Like
Yeah. So you can in a millisecond press L2 to pull up the gun and R2 to shoot. If you're locked onto an enemy, that happens almost instantly. So if you really want to get out of combat, just turn on auto aim and have
grab a sniper.
have a sniper rifle. Anyway, I think there's Naughty Dog is just so good at most of the things they do, almost everything.
Yeah.
And as I am someone who, if I had to pick, does prefer The Last of Us 2. You can go back and listen to our episode on that.
You could just see his top 20 favorite movies, and you could look at these two games and go, yeah, he'd like that one a little better.
Yes. Yeah.
You could look at my favorite movies and see that it's Mad Max and Pacific Rim, and it's like Godzilla.
Yeah, but for mine, it's like the killing of a sacred deer, or Before Sunshine, Before Sunset.
Which I love. I'm sure I would love. Those aren't particular, but look at all of the movies that he's seen that I've seen. I love.
It's very obvious. It's very obvious if you knew us a little better with the sort of story tastes that we have. I do prefer The Last of Us 2. However, the pacing here is
so
again
good.
Back to the modularity. The way every piece of gameplay in each chapter is laid out is just unparalleled. It's so
One of my
here.
favorite. This is not going to be new, but obviously my favorite moment of the whole game was the car sequence where you're being dragged behind the car. That was probably my favorite action sequence in the whole game.
Where you're being dragged
like where you grapple the car and you're being dragged behind it and you have to get back up on the car. It's in Madagascar.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
I did not like that very much.
I loved it because here's the thing. There's this big armored car that comes in that is so oppressive. I mean, incredibly oppressive. It is always on you, always doing damage to you, and you're driving through Madagascar, through the streets of this town.
Yeah, just wrecking the whole place. Really terrible.
And it's great because I'm sure that there's obviously multiple ways to progress because they want you to make a split-second decision because the car's going to pull out in front of you. It's super fast and you got to go down a little back alley or something. I didn't find I ever got turned around. Like, I mean, and I saw there were multiple paths to go and I would intentionally try the one that didn't look so obvious.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like, I ended up where I needed to go. It lets you feel like you're making these split-second decisions and able to evade this massive vehicle. And then you come out, you see your brother up there, and it's like, Nate, you gotta do something! And he just grapples onto this crane that is careening at, 70 miles an hour. And he's swinging off the side of this massive bridge. You're almost hitting the boat. You pull yourself up. You're just being dragged, covered in mud on this thing. You're pulling yourself up.
So it's super fun all the way up to that point when you finally... you get off the crane and you jump in the back of a truck.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that was a little bit more standard, yeah.
It was like really hit or miss. I died like 6 times on that.
Yeah, that was a little difficult. I agree. I think they should have made it easier because
it wasn't very readable. And then I would just I would clip on a rock or something and just blow up.
It's a careful balance because it's not really combat. Like it's combat being modded as part of a set piece, right? And you lose the momentum if you die, right? And the momentum is so key to delivering that. And you're right. By that point, what got me back in is when the truck finally shows back up with you and Sam, and it's right on top of you.
That middle section there, though. That's awesome. When you're on Sam's bike, and they do what they do. That you're running into the camera. They've been doing that since the 90s. They had an entire trilogy of games where that was the central mechanic. So you're doing
Bandicoot.
that while on this little bike, and this freaking truck, this massive armored truck, is just plowing
with the grill
through
like dragging on the ground.
Yeah.
It's just, it looks so good, and it flips over, and
and it ends with some dock workers like, what just happened? And you're like, yeah, we should go.
Yeah.
And you just drive through
So
these dock
awesome.
workers.
Yeah, I think that could have been tweaked. I think to keep
It was
that
the combat
momentum up.
section. Yeah, they should have kept it more cinematic there, less of a full combat section.
Yeah, a little more. Yeah, I agree.
And you know
with
they're
that.
trying to one up
And it's
themselves
fun
every time.
It's fun to just jump onto another like vehicle. It works. That part isn't broken. It's good. But yeah, for me, I'm more talking about the lead up to that as you like.
Yeah,
along,
the
like,
actual set pieces were
crashing
fantastic.
In. Oh, dude, driving on the roofs, like it just worked, man.
Yeah,
It just worked.
I think my favorite set piece. You know, I didn't make note. I should have made note of them a little more. One that really comes to mind is when you finally get to Libertalia. You get up in the tower and they shoot the tower down. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, it's so good.
There's this giant tower on the side of a mountain, and they shoot it down, and it is crumbling off of the side of the mountain. And so you're running through the tower, which is now horizontal, trying to get, as it's falling towards another side of a mountain, trying to get through it.
I love
It's crazy.
Scotland, where you've just gone through a lot of puzzles, a lot of exploration, and finally the bad guys, corner you or whatever, and you decide to trigger the trap, and it blows everything to hell, and you're just running through everything. You're swinging from chandeliers, you're sliding down these massive mountains, shooting at people on your way down.
That was a lot of fun.
Finally jump into the sea and swim over to Sully. It's that's probably one of my favorite ones.
Good stuff. I'm trying to remember some more towards the end. That's the only one that comes to mind right now. I should have wrote them down.
Yeah, the you got the kind of last big shootout that they always do at the end of Uncharted games, which is fine. And then it's fun going through the things, but obviously the final encounter, just swashbuckling. You're literally swashbuckling.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have two swords in a burning pirate ship next to the corpses of two men who couldn't let go. It's so thematically on point. And I thought they were going to go for the... So one of my favorite things about the game is the thematic consistency, right? Because you have the penitent thief and the unpenitent thief as kind of the central image throughout the whole game. And... we don't see that dichotomy in 2 and in Thomas 2 and Henry Avery. They're both unpenitent thieves. And so I thought they were going to do it with Nathan Drake and his brother, Sam. I thought they were going to do this kind of unpenitent thief, but it ends with you and Rafe, who should be played by Jake Gyllenhaal in a movie. I was scrolling through, and I saw someone make that comparison. I'm like, oh, I need this.
Please.
I need this right now. But yeah, and you're just doing this sword fight, and you have, like, Nathan has learned his lesson at this point. He has learned his lesson. He has realized, and all the notes in the game, all of the pirate lore, all is pointing to the simple cliche. You won't call it cliche if you want, but the characters really deliver it. Your treasure is like, where's your treasure? What's actually your treasure? You know what I mean? And they make it so obvious in the opening of that game. They deliver it so well. But like, what is your treasure? And he's chosen to be penitent, to say like, nope, I know I don't deserve any of this. Like, this is what's actually valuable in my life. And Rafe refuses to let go. And it ends with the two thieves crucified alongside Jesus, swashbuckling in a burning pirate ship.
Yeah,
Like,
it's amazing.
It's just so well done, man.
Yeah, let's talk about the story a little more. The relationship there.
Yeah, I think it opens with one of the best openings I've seen in a video game.
Oh my god, dude! Especially if you've grown up with this series.
Yeah,
Since it launched in 2006.
Chapter 1, the Malaysia job, or like Chapter 2 or whatever it is, right? And you're like, oh, you're underwater, you're in the scuba gear, and you're like,
Well, let's break for a moment. Chapter 1, just real quick. I
Sure.
want to throw this in there. This is something that games have a really hard time doing, and this game falls victim to. It opens playing with young Drake. You're playing him in the orphanage he grew up in, and I immediately roll my eyes. The first time a prompt comes up, I'm like, oh, dude, I know how to play these games. I've grown up with these games, and with very few exceptions, almost every video game sequel has this weird thing they have to balance. Like, yes, we're here as a sequel for players that, fans now that are following the series, but also, just by nature of a video game console, if one series comes out on one console, maybe it's not ported or something, or just you didn't pay $60 for it 3 years ago. We got to teach new players how to do it. You can't assume that someone has the sort of literacy required to play any given game. It's difficult to alienate, sort of agree to alienate a portion of an audience for the sake of getting up and running without a tutorial. And they do that here. You do go through a full tutorial, not to its detriment. It does it very well. Everything Naughty Dog does is just they do things very, very well. And
Sneaking past the smoking nun to get
yeah, I was happy to see that it didn't bog down my experience. It was an important part of the narrative, but it got me thinking, like, it's difficult for games to grapple with that. Do you alienate an audience for the sake of not having a tutorial?
Isn't it odd that the most inviting game in the whole world alienates with its tutorial? Super Mario 64, where it just puts you in there and it's like, all right, figure out the controls, I guess, and you're just in this little area. You can kind of jump and move around. It's literally the first time many people moved in 3D, and platformed in 3D, and it didn't
without
give you,
10 controls.
It didn't give you, like, sure, there are some signs, but none of them are like, here's how you triple jump, here's how you do this, here's how you do that. It's like, just move around, figure it out,
press buttons.
Like, that's. The more I think about it, that's pretty ballsy.
Which is strange for Nintendo, that they definitely
have
took
moved
a turn
away
after
from
that.
Yeah, it's been. I wonder. It'd be an interesting study. But that's a great point. And the intro, kind of getting to know Sam and getting to see Nathan when he was younger again. It's good stuff. Definitely a slow opening. Which
It
I
is,
like.
but a good one.
Yeah, no, I think
It's a good
I like
slow.
that it's slow. It lets you really ease in, and it opens in media res too. So the first thing you see is you're in the boat with Sam, and you're like, it's one of the big set piece moments, kind of literally taken out of the game and put there. You don't replay it; it's taken out of the game and put at the beginning.
Right. That's right.
Which I was thinking about, why did they do that? I get it because to build only slowly would, I think, undermine the emotional heart of the game being adventure. And I think to have that, where are we going, the mystery, it's very classic. It's a classic, way to do it. I think it serves the game well long term. What I really love though, chapter 2 or whatever, the Malaysia job, and you're underwater, you're like, okay, I'm Nathan Drake, I'm in Malaysia, I'm like figuring this out, I'm gonna do this stuff, and you have this nice little, probably 5-minute segment of finding these crates and swimming around, learning the swimming controls.
Lost.
Unless you get lost.
Sorry,
this is true. It's
I
probably better.
Find the freak. It's in the. There's 3 boxes that you're trying to get. This semi truck has fallen over. You see the trailer at the bottom of this river, and you're trying to find some boxes that had fallen out of it. You find 2 of them. One of them is in the truck, but a hole has been ripped into the side of it, so it's sort of under this hole that you only see when you're in the truck. So I never went back in there. I'm looking everywhere for this, and finally I was like, okay, I don't want to look at a guide 2 minutes into the game. So I went to bed after searching for like half an hour, and then came back and searched for probably another 15 minutes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's really terrible.
That's incredible.
Really terrible. But go ahead.
You find the box eventually, and you put it back in, and you raise it up. So then you kind of ride the crane up, and you raise out, and you're just in a city under a bridge somewhere in America, and you're like, it's very jarring. Like it takes you, and you realize you recontextualize the dialogue, and you start to realize, like, you're like, what, he feels so out of place here. Like, this feels wrong. Like, I've never seen him in anything remotely like this before. And it's such a quick reveal, too. And then it kind of kind of smooths down, mentions Malaysia job, whatever. Next scene you play, you're up in your office. And you're like, okay, in my office, and you are walking through looking at all the spoils of your adventures from the last games, and these kind of fond, sad memories, like he's shaking the little rocks from Shambhala, and it's like it feels tragic, and then he finds a Nerf gun, and you use your little shooting mechanics. You've already learned the shooting mechanics. Like, it's not a tutorial. You literally just find the Nerf gun and start shooting stuff in your office, reliving your glory days through the foam.
Yeah.
And then you hear your wife call you for dinner. You're like, oh my God, I love her. And like, I'm so glad they're together. And
I've always loved Elena, but especially like, yes, you need to be together.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay. And you go downstairs and you look, it's just a normal house.
Yeah.
And, he comes to Elena with probably one of the best romantic scenes I've ever seen anything, anywhere, ever. Like, you
need to watch the Before trilogy.
Sure. Established happy couple. No, I'm just kidding. No, but like you feel so much love, the genuine self-sacrificial love between these two people. You see that Nate has willingly given up all of his adventure and is not like this begrudging guy about it. Like any other story, that's the problem. Oh, she's holding me back, and I'm doing it for her, I guess. Damn it. And no, he's like, I know this is good, and I know this is better, and I've made this decision consciously, and I'm happy with what I've decided. But even then, you see the conflict, that she recognizes that he misses it, and that he wants it, and she wants to give that to him. She's encouraging him to go on this Malaysia job, even without the permits. She's like, come on, Nate. And he still says no, because he is so committed to her, and it's beautiful.
But all of that is disrupted. All that commitment is disrupted in the first chapter, it's established that your brother dies. And in now this chapter, he comes back. After this, you go back to work. So that truck that was being pulled out of the river, that's just your day job. You're a diver. You go to get stuff like this. That's what you do. You work for this guy that owns a little diving company.
Who's a great guy.
Yeah.
Like, just anytime he's on screen, I'm like, hey!
So you go back to work. And you're wrapping up. You're just opening. So you're there first thing in the morning. Nobody else is there. You're shuffling around some papers. And you get a knock on the door. He's like, no, we're not open. You'll have to wait. A couple more knocks. Finally, he goes out there, and there's his brother again. There's Troy Baker in all of his glory.
Gosh, I love Troy Baker.
Yeah, Sam Drake. And, you're shocked. Your whole world is now disrupted. And he convinces you.
Of course, Nate, so committed to giving up his desire for adventure, Elena says, you got to come over for dinner. Like, that's his first thing. Like, he's so... he's just a normal dude now, It's great.
But he is pretty easily persuaded.
I would... not really. Like, his brother says, this guy's after me. He's going to kill me if I don't find it. And he still says no. He says no. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then he has to push him again. Nate, I'm going to die if we don't do this.
All right.
And then he's like, okay. And he makes the decision to lie to his wife and say that he got the Malaysia job and he's going. Assuming that she's dumb, apparently, and not one of the smartest, coolest characters in all the video games.
Yeah, silly guy.
Yeah, that's,
silly. But also...
And some people, I noticed, so I kind of was like, I was curious, what do people feel about this game in the community? Because we know how critics feel, like, in the community, like, seems like 2 is still the fan favorite overall, which I find interesting. And the primary criticism is this decision from Nate to lie to Elena. And I think that those people haven't been married.
Probably.
Because they're filthy gamer. No, I'm just kidding. Because they're... no, I think... And it's not me being offensive or anything. I think it's because in that moment, I've had these decisions multiple times where I know that me telling my wife something will stress her out, will make her anxious, will lead to an argument, will make a big problem, where if I can just, hide it, let it never come up again, it will never be a problem. It'll just, we'll finish it, we'll get it done, it will never be a problem. And we won't have to go through probably a pretty rocky little moment. Especially if I had already told her I would not be doing that thing ever again. And I had doubled down on that in an earlier conversation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't make that decision in a case that big, I would like to think. But I don't know. I get it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's, the examples you're thinking of are on a much smaller scale.
Of course.
It's not even something that you would probably consider to be lying to your wife.
No.
They're just, listen, I'm sparing you the stress of this. You go do whatever needs to be done.
There's already red tape we have established as part of our marriage on purpose to resolve past issues that I would have to cut and retape if I brought this up to you, and I'm just going to bypass that. I'm going to leave the red tape in place, crawl under it, and crawl back.
Sure.
And it'll be done. No worries. This is obviously, like you said, way huger because it's a video game and a story, but
that's what they're going for here.
But I totally understand. Like, I get that decision. And it's coming from, obviously, a team of writers who understand that, too, I think.
Yeah. They get people pretty
well. They really do. I love...
there.
What does Neil Druckmann say? Simple plot, complex characters? Right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's him. He said that after a conversation with Cory Balrog, Cory Balrog.
Yeah.
I was going to say Balrog because Balrogs are cool.
He should change his name.
What?
He should change his name.
Oh, I thought you said he just changed his name. I'm like, good.
Yeah.
No, Barlog. Yeah.
Cory Balrog.
Yeah, but
please.
he and Cory Barlog were having a conversation, and he left that conversation realizing that about himself, that he likes simple story, complex characters.
Yeah.
Just
and I appreciate that.
I was about to say, I like that better than
the characters.
No offense to Kojima, I like that better than the alternative.
Fair enough.
But the president, then we have Solid Snake and Solid Snake, and they're all like Mount Rushmore on the front of a ship, It's because the Patriots, nanomachines, son.
God, dude, those games,
incredible.
Metal Gear Solid 2, bro.
It's so good.
So good.
But yeah, it's a good setup. You get sucked back into the adventure. You go to, what is it, Italy, and then Scotland, and then Madagascar.
And each time, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go here.
Yeah, dude.
Each time you go to a new place.
And I just got back from Ireland not that long ago to see Scotland, which is, very similar kind of features. I was like, it reminds me of home.
You were there for 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really cool. They do such a good job.
Where your soul belongs.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, you gotta see the Banshee of Inisherin.
Yes,
it's very, very good.
Looks
still playing.
Good. Yeah,
in the theater.
But yeah, I think that they do a good job of setting that up, and the story goes along in a nice little clip.
Mm-hmm. It's just about the adventure for a while. For
Sully comes back in.
Yes.
Oh, probably my favorite character
So
aside
good.
the main ones. He's a main one, I guess. Enough.
Yeah, I would say he's the main one.
Yeah, I mean he. It's weird though because he plays a supporting role in every scene, but he's a main character.
Yeah,
like,
dude, supporting a role as Elena until this game.
That's fair. I'd call it. Yeah. I love.
So I'm saying I would not call it a supporting role because it's an equal role to Elena up until here.
No, I meant like in the scene. Like he is not the one the drama is centered around ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But one of my favorite scenes in the game is when he just looks at Nate. He's like, Nate, you got to tell her, and he's like, no, I can figure this out. And he's like, Nate, she's not stupid. Like he just knows. He's seen this mistake in his life. You can see it in his eyes. You can hear it in the delivery. He's like, Nate, trust me. And my favorite line from him, probably in the whole game, she can handle it. Like he gets it. He's
because and you see this. He probably told her, or she called him and came clean after she did her own investigation off screen. Or maybe he did call. We don't know either.
It has something to do with that relationship for sure.
But yeah, it has to do with that relationship. And you see it after the last big encounter in Madagascar. After the truck, you Sully, and
the
Sam,
winch.
After you, Sully, and Sam go back to your hotel room, he's so excited. He's like, oh, we got these new clues. He comes in the room like you're walking into the room with all your bros, and Elena's there. And
hey there, Nate.
yeah,
Dude, just
oh my god, dude.
and she is just all she wants from him in that moment is two things. I'm so sorry. I should have trusted you. And just to be honest and say like, yes, I
Both
lied.
with her and himself.
And himself to say like, no, you like this is a problem and like talk to me. Open up to me. Don't blame me. Like I'm literally the best wife ever. Dude, she comes back for him. She shelves her agenda. She shelves all of this crap that they're going to have to deal with and says, no, I'm going to take care of you because I promised you. She's like, why did you come back? And she goes, marriage vows, I guess. Like, that's literally all that's holding her onto the situation.
Yeah.
Because she promised him. Oh!
And you see it several times where, you know, it's really hanging on by a thread.
Yeah. And you can tell that, like, and him, okay, I'm gonna cry. My favorite scene in the game, in the whole game, except for maybe the opening with Elena in the house, like that's really clean. My favorite scene in the whole game is you and she just said marriage vows, I guess, and they made a little progress. It's the first time that she's still cool. Like she's not bitter, she's not turning her shoulder to him, but she's cool. You can tell. Like she's not warm towards
very
him.
level-headed.
And she knows that, you know, she's trying not to get riled up about it. She knows that she needs to be here for this moment. And they make a little progress where he goes, you know, why did you come back? He admits that he doesn't deserve for her to come back. And, you know, and this little tiny moment of progress. It's not huge. It's this little moment. And you come up the elevator and you drive into this huge, gorgeous, like it's all grays and greens. And a unique song that does not play anywhere else in the whole game plays over that one moment. And I couldn't handle it, dude. It was
very good
because it's not
all
this
the
moment
sound
of, like,
is muted, not muted, but you know, really quiet.
Yeah.
After she says what she says, you get in the car and it's just this song
because it's not like this. And look, they were okay. It's not this song that's like, oh, look, everything's horrible. It's just this song of like, I don't know, just life, like just being alive and being in a marriage. Like I don't know, There's something beautiful and heavy in it that I want to cry. I'm so close to crying right now. It's really solid, man.
I'm pulling it up right now. Let's see. I forgot to do it before the cast. This moment, and really, so this moment you're talking about, and this whole relationship, as depicted in Uncharted 4, until the very end. It's a very, very good ending.
Oh, I love
which I look forward to talking about. Reminded me of a song that so in high school, I really enjoyed making mixtapes. I'd put them on CD, of course. You know, I'm not a savage. But I enjoyed making mixtapes for friends and certainly for Katie. Katie and I are high school sweethearts, been together for 12 years or so. And I haven't made one in a very long time. And I was reading, what was I reading? The Bondage of the Will. I never finished that one. I don't read it is very hard. The first like third of the book is opening the refutation with chapters upon chapters of here's a concept that you said in your thing. I'm going to set up what I'm going to say to refute it.
Yeah.
For a third of the book. It's a rough one to get through. But anyway, so in that, Martin Luther is talking about what our concept of will is like. And he compares ours to God's will, which we can't really comprehend. We can do our best, but we're still going to come up short. And you mentioned this the other day when talking about time and how Catholics consider God's forgiveness to work.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's stretching over time, which we only perceive a small moment of. at any given time. But so for us, it is continuing.
Yeah.
It has not already happened. It is happening always. Anyway, so it's kind of like that. We as humans might will to build a house.
I love wherever this is going.
I think that's the example he uses, or maybe I just came up with it. But we may will to build a house, and once the house is built, we no longer will to build a house. It's there. Sure, we might clean it and stuff, maintain it as we do a house, but the will to build the house is complete. So we no longer will to do that. However, God's will for redemption doesn't end. It is constant. It started, or it has always been and will always be. And we don't know where it ends and begins because it likely doesn't, because we have no concept of time in its reality. I thought that was a very good picture of marriage. You don't will to have a good marriage, and you have a good marriage and no longer will for that. You are constantly working on that. Always. It may be good sometimes. It may not be other times. But if your marriage is as true as it should be, like they're trying to depict here in this game, then that will never dissipates.
Yeah.
So all that to say, I made her a mixtape with that in mind. A collection of songs that are not always happy. Some are sad. But it ends with... So it is what I thought a picture of a healthy marriage with both good and bad times would look like. It ends with this song, Take This Heart of Gold, which is just basically about Nathan Drake. And the last two verses here, or the last verse and then into the last chorus, really sum up what's going on here. So I wanted to read them here.
Yeah.
All that to say, I wanted to read these lyrics here.
Do it.
It says, out the door and down the drive, there's a part of me... I'm sorry. I'm getting a little foggy.
Yeah, dude.
Sorry. Out the door and down the drive, there's a part of me that tries to keep the highway's call to me away. And another further still that sadly never will feel at home no matter how long I may stay. So take this heart of gold and melt it down, and I'll come around. I'll come around. I'm treading lightly in your eyes, but I cannot lie. A life without you would never steal me now. And it really sums up, I think, what they're going for here. It's a very good song.
There's a scene, too, where he's, like, they're together and he's, like, figuring out what happened at this dinner table of dead pirates, which...
This is that was the alcohol, not getting choked up. This is actually probably my favorite scene.
This is really good.
We interpret it differently, though, I think.
I think that we both interpret it the same. We just highlight different things.
Okay. All right.
Because I think both... Yeah, so he is, like, freaking out over this, like, wow, look at what's going on here. Look at all these he's putting the pieces together. It's a really awesome scene. And it lingers on her. So like he's doing this like deducing, and she's just looking at him, and her eyes say so
and
much.
The camera work definitely helps here as well. Like he comes out of focuses on her in the distance, and he starts to become muted.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else happening. Like she's not talking. It's not an inner monologue. He just starts to become muted.
And you can see her go through, this is the man that I fell in love with. This is the man who inspired me and who, is just larger than life. This is the man who keeps leaving me for adventure. This is the man who, what is it, 3 times now? Right? Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, and now Uncharted 4. 3 times he's left me. I can't keep forgiving him. And is this gonna work? Like, can I do this? And I think her last thought, based on her actions later in the game, at the very end of the game, I think her last thought is the thought of an incredible married person. Wife, husband, doesn't matter. Whatever you are, the thought of an incredible married person is, what can I do without compromising like me and myself and who I am, what can I do to make this work? Not what can he do? How can he change? Her thought is, what can I do? Is there anything left that I can do? Am I an idiot for forgiving him one more time? What can I do? And at the end of the game, you know, she buys the diving company. She takes the Malaysia job. They start going around the world again. They move to Cancun or something, you know, somewhere in the Yucatan Peninsula. You know, she does this big compromise, which is barely a compromise for her. She just, you know, she loves it.
Yeah.
And she's the reason they're still together. It's not Nathan realizing his wrong. It's not, none of that. Elena is the reason they are still together. Because she is A, the greatest, B, the best, and C, everything. She's just amazing. But she's just a perfect wife. She's amazing. She's so good and she's not weak. She doesn't keep forgiving him and like letting him string her along. I think she's wise enough to recognize, you know, him learning his lesson, but also willing to take that risk and that, you know, in that venture and try to find some compromise to make him feel more at home.
Yeah.
You know? It's just such a good scene. There's like a million emotions. She doesn't say a word.
It's very, very good.
How do they do it?
I'd like to focus on that. You've said it a few times already, and, you know, we've talked about it a little bit. But we called Elena perfect, or the perfect wife. And we do not mean that she is a waifu. That, you know, we're very attracted to Elena.
Correct.
Physically, which Elena's a very attractive person. However, it's exactly what you were just alluding to, that the level of wisdom in Elena and the fortitude not to always sacrifice. I'm not saying that a wife is perfect when she's always sacrificing for her husband.
Yeah.
That should definitely be mutual. And he's done some of that.
He did it for, he gave up literally everything. I think, and the problem was that he gave up too much.
Yeah, he definitely overcorrected. Yeah, and I think that hits home for some of us.
Dude, it hits home for me.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. You said it. Yeah. So there we go. That overcorrection is a big deal, and is potentially detrimental. But recognizing that and having the wisdom and the fortitude to be able to weather that, and then, you know,
to make the decision best for the marriage.
Yes, it's very good.
Yeah,
very
she's
good,
awesome.
Man.
Yeah, she's so cool. I wanted to really quick reverse and touch on just something I thought of. You talked about God's will. There's this idea that not only can God not lie, but when he speaks, it literally is. Right? Because that's how he made the world. Mm-hmm. But so not only can he not lie, when he speaks, it literally is. And so you know, voice is just the manifestation of desire or will in a person. You speak because you usually want something or trying to communicate something, right? So like literally his will is period. Like that's a thing. Uh-huh. That's crazy to me. It's crazy that it just follows into your house analogy and all this stuff. Yeah, it's cool. She's great.
So the album I made was called Never Built. The idea
good.
being always building. And I had Leah draw the cover art for it, which is a house that's like not in disrepair, but is currently being built, but not as you would see it. You know, first you do all of the you know, the skeleton of the house, then you put on some of the walls, you do the floor, you do the roof, whatever. It's like from a fully formed cornerstone to like the roof hasn't even been put on here. You can still see the boards in the wall. This sort of gradient.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So the last thing two things that I still want to say. One is that the night I finished this game, I stayed up nearly all night. Just my heart racing and thinking about this game. It's just very, very good. That hasn't happened for a while. And it's made me think a lot about adventure. I'm reading The Three Musketeers for the first time. You know, I'm going through all my skimming through all the Jules Verne books that I still have the copies I read when I was a little kid. Journey to the Center of the Earth, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where Captain Nemo steps out underwater just at the bottom of the sea and is fine. But yeah, just these things. And I was thinking, okay, well, what is adventure? What separates it? What makes it different than just action or fantasy or like Mad Max Fury Road is not an adventure movie. It's an action movie, but it has big set pieces, moving from one to one, interesting characters. Like, what separates it? And I think that it's 2 words: grounded wonder. I think that's what makes an adventure story. Grounded wonder. The idea that this is, sure, Nathan Drake has fingers that have biceps, but like, it's grounded in the sense that like,
so silly, dude.
Yeah. But it's sure things that happen and it couldn't actually literally happen. Same with Journey to the Center of the Earth, but it's believable enough because they're not just kind of making stuff. It's not a different world. It's not the super far-fetched thing. It's grounded in our world, a place that we could have discovered if we looked for it, and to be amazed by that thing. It's the reason we read about Ernest Shackleton's adventures to Antarctica. These men who and women who went out and discovered something that had not been set foot on before and pushed in. It's a giant snowy hellscape. Why do we care? Because nobody set foot on it yet. Right? Shackleton died reaching the South Pole because he wanted to touch it. A snowy nothing. Why do we do that? And I think adventure stories are that. To be amazed at a pile of otherwise meaningless snow because it's set on this point nobody has ever walked on yet. Mm-hmm. And there's this incredible sense that, like, an adventure story, you have to be able to say, that could be me. That's what it is. To be amazed by Atlantis, in the Disney Atlantis movie. You show up, you're like, whoa, what is it? You found this place? There's all these Victorian dudes, finding this crazy place. Treasure Island, where it's just a bunch of pirates and this stowaway kid, just on an adventure with some pirates. It's it makes you want to be there. It makes you think you could be there. And reminds you how incredible a pile of snow can be. A bunch of old ruins with some dead horse skeletons in the middle of, a Madagascar island somewhere. It's, I think that's what it is. And I think these games, the Uncharted games, deliver that without missing a beat.
Yeah.
They've delivered something better than Indiana Jones has. They build on what Indiana Jones built. And take it a whole step further with video games. And it's incredible to me when you make a game that I don't praise it for its combat, I don't praise it for its puzzles, don't praise it for its climbing, don't praise it for any of these things in particular. And yet when I finish that game, I want to go back and play all of them again. Mm-hmm. You've made something very emotionally resonant and very rewarding.
Yes.
And I applaud you.
Indeed. Again, really glad I played it when I did. Didn't play it at launch. This is a good time to play it. I think I was already married when it came out. 2016 maybe? Mm-hmm. 2015. But still very early on. Very early on in the marriage. It's been about 8 years now. So maybe not as long as them. I don't know. But they're adults with many more years ahead of me. So there's a lot there that they've experienced that even I probably haven't gotten to yet, but it resonates way more than it would have with younger Tyler, 2016 Tyler. So now is a great time to play it. Really grateful that we did. I don't really have much more to say about it.
That's all mine, man. That's all mine.
I'll link to that song by Watchtower, formerly known as Mandolin Orange. Don't know why they changed their name, but I found that out the other day.
That's a great name.
Yeah, but so is Mandolin Orange.
No, a Mandolin Orange. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It to Watchtower.
Yeah, Mandolin Orange is way better. It's not a,
Yeah, I don't know why they changed it.
Yeah.
That's silly. Silly geese. What is not as emotionally resonant, though I didn't finish it, I played half of Uncharted Lost Legacy.
Tell me.
I really appreciate the trend. I have not seen it yet.
As
this
Tyler
generation.
calls it, Uncharted Eye Candy Edition.
There is that. All right, Chloe is very attractive. But anyway, it's first of all, I appreciate the trend, which does not seem to be happening this generation. But I think it was mostly Sony doing it. But anyway, when a game comes out the next year or maybe year and a half, you get a B team using all the tech that you made for that previous game to make a budget title, typically $40. We saw several of those last generation. Thought it was a great use of resources, and most of those games are pretty decent. Here we have Uncharted Lost Legacy using Nadine from Uncharted 4, and from Uncharted 2 you've got Chloe. They're the duo here, set in India. It's gorgeous. Oh my god, dude, is it gorgeous. Maybe boot it up just to get out of the tutorial.
I will eventually play it.
I don't know if it's worth it, man. It's really
I'll play with my dad.
Rush it. 100% rush it. Don't do any of the side content. So here's where I think the gameplay discussion is interesting. It's Uncharted 4. It's all the same gameplay. All the exact same gameplay. However, it's happening in a small open world area. So there's the tutorial happening here. You sort of set up the job, and you and Nadine, this is post Uncharted 4, so they kind of comment on those events, on the characters. You come into this huge, it's actually not that big. It's surprising how quickly you drive across it, because you see it. They really try to sell this valley to you. Every time you get up to a peak, the camera's showing you new angles of this valley, and each time, it's one of the most beautiful things I've seen in a video game. It's amazing, okay? And it's Indian architecture, which I think is just
amazing,
incredible, dude. So it's the Uncharted 4 gameplay with these very lackluster platforming sections. It's set up so you know exactly what you're doing. There are 3 watchtowers that you need to go climb and get a thing from, or activate a thing on, which are going to open a big door. After you do the first one, you realize, oh, something is going to happen at this part of the map. And you draw on the map. That's going to be your final destination. Very early on, you find out that there is this little side quest that you can do in this open area. And I did all that. Don't do any of it. It's very lackluster. You get a bracelet that will vibrate when treasure is near. There's not a cutscene that happens. She just puts it on. It's nothing special. Okay. It's very silly. Don't waste your time. That's what I did, though. I did everything that you could do in this open area. That is roughly half of the playtime if you're doing that. It's like half an hour if you don't do that. Just go to the 3 towers, climb up them, do the thing, and go to the rest of the game. I stopped there. I do plan to watch it, because once you get into these massive ruins, this is from here, once you go through this door, you enter into this is where it starts to get, Uncharted. This is weird stuff. No one has ever discovered this sort of thing. Like, this valley is well known, I guess, at least in the fiction of Uncharted 4. But once you get through this place, that's when the crazy stuff starts to happen. I didn't see it through because it was not very compelling. After I spent 3 or 3.5 hours in that open world space, it put a sour taste into my mouth. It's the balance that we talked about. This game is not doing that. This is obviously the B team. It's still gorgeous. It's still the same tech, but you don't have that really precision, the precision design philosophy here. So it doesn't really work well. I mean, it works like an Uncharted game, and if for some reason you really like the shooting and the platforming,
You should play. I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna say you should play Gears of War or something.
yeah,
Yeah, what
something
would
else.
you play? I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff you could play
I don't know.
for shooting, like third-person shooting, good third-person shooting. I mean, I would say Metal Gear Solid 5, but this is one of the best. But it's not really shooting.
Metal Gear Solid 5. Yeah, and I don't really think. Yes, it's technically third person, but that's not really third person shooting.
No, it's a stealth game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Like,
stealth game. But it feels
most-
great to shoot. Like, once you
It
get
does.
some of those big guns and you just, like, walk up to a camp, I don't have time for this. And you just mow everyone down.
Yeah.
But, yeah, what's a good... I don't know. We'll have to think about it afterwards. But, yeah. Okay.
After that, though, I have watched a little bit of it. So in the playthrough I watched, which is 3.5 hours, I guess he rushed that open world area because that's like half an hour of that playthrough. So then you've got the other half of the game, which is the much more linear Uncharted stuff. And that's about 3 hours. So if you play it, I recommend rushing that. Because here you've got, after you get past that, the villain really comes into play. Tommy is back because, you know, he just wants to go be a treasure hunter, as they establish. So they bring him back here. Him and Nadine are now... They're not working together. I don't know exactly how he gets involved yet, but he is there.
Wait, which character? Tommy? Who's Tommy?
Who's Drake's brother?
Oh, Sam.
Sam! Yeah, I don't know why I said Tommy. Sam is back.
Oh, okay. I love Sam.
Yeah. So Sam is back. Just rush that opening area. It's gorgeous, sure. But all you have to do is climb the...
I like how Sam is like there's just the smoker brother of Nathan. Like, you know, he's got these little more gaunt. He's got this prison tattoos up his neck, the denim jacket. We didn't talk much about him, but what a great character design. Like, it's hard in a long-running series like this to quickly endear you to a character. Mm-hmm. But how quickly you just like him. He's like the cheeky guy in over his head. You know, he's just kind of cute.
He is, yes, I agree with all that. For some reason, everything you were just saying reminded me of Poseidon from Hades. He is just, like, Poseidon is the older version of him. He's not quite there yet, doesn't have the wisdom just yet. As, you know, whatever amount of wisdom Poseidon may have. He's still a drunkard.
Yeah.
Just your drunk
I still
uncle.
think my favorite god from Hades, boon god, my favorite boon god is Dionysus. Hey there, Zag, how's it going, man? Good to see you again. He's just such a bro, man. Also, though, loading up the Hera arrow, where you can load your little charge into there and just start shooting his, like, cloud bombs at people.
I don't
That's
recall
some
this.
crazy damage, boy.
Call this. And I thought you were talking about Uncharted for a moment. I was like,
Whoa, those Hera arrows. What did you find?
yeah.
I just whip out this massive, like, Zelda light bow. And, like, yeah. No, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I was like, oh, this seems short. I'll just go do all this side content. It took me about 3 hours, which is not long, but being just a 6-hour game, I didn't realize that was going to end up being half of the game. You can really rush the game. So I'd recommend, it seems like it is going to get good narratively.
Just push those towers.
Just do the 3 towers and get through it. You'll do it really. Half an hour might be a stretch. Half of that time might just be standing at the vista and watching it.
Cool.
Once you're actually there. So just rush through it. I might still play. I might pick it up and finish it, or I might watch it. I don't know. Because it is just more Uncharted, and I really want that adventure right now.
Dude. And nothing scratches that itch.
No, we don't have any other games
Nothing.
like
I
this.
watched, like, the closest I got, I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark with my parents again the other night. What a great movie.
Awesome.
What a great movie. Harrison Ford was a hunk. Dude, he looked so good in that movie.
Maybe I'll watch that with Katie
Also,
tonight.
though, like, the ending, Hollywood doesn't do endings like that anymore. Like, where the action hero goes, no, you're right, I shouldn't do that. And just submits to whatever's about to happen. Like, there's no big bombastic, like, action hero swooping in at the end to save the day moment. Like, it's all just the arc at the end.
Yeah.
It's a really ballsy ending, and it works really well.
Maybe I'll check it out with Katie tonight. We're gonna likely watch a movie when I get home.
It's so campy, and I love it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
So I've seen it. She's probably seen it. Which other one should I watch if we don't do that?
The third one. It's called Indiana Jones: Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade.
Last Crusade.
It's got Sean Connery. It's a fun movie, and it's about the
what
Holy
about
Grail.
Crystal Skull?
I've never seen it actually, and Oliver says on a rewatch he actually has a lot more. Like he learned how to like it. Like it, I don't know. He said that watching if this gives any context, he said watching the Disney Star Wars movies helped him to realize how valuable what that movie actually did is.
Interesting.
So I'm willing to. I own it. I've never watched it. I've actually only ever seen Temple of Doom and Last Crusade once. I remember really not liking Temple of Doom. That seems to be the least favorite besides Crystal Skull. Mostly because it's based on like really, really campy stuff. And because each one's based on a different kind of adventure literature. And that's based on apparently the most campy style. And maybe that's just not for me. But maybe now that I'm older and appreciate that stuff, maybe I'll like it more.
Or maybe I'll just go watch Lost City of Z again.
I want to watch
which you
that
should
so
watch.
bad.
Oh my goodness! So that is the most realistic adventure movie in this sort of style.
Yeah.
It's very grounded. It's based on a true story, but as an adult, these things are still fun as an adult. And then when you incorporate characters in a narrative like we see here in Uncharted 4, it can always still be great for adults. This one is very interesting. There are very few things, moments in my adult life that I've got to experience something like this. Re-experiencing childlike wonder, I think, comes pretty easy to you and I.
Yeah.
But experiencing the equivalent of childlike wonder, specifically for adults, that might be a weird way to say it.
No, I get exactly what you're saying. I get exactly what you're saying.
This and Hollow Knight are the only two things in my adult life that have given me that experience.
I'm trying to think of which ones have done it for me. I know there are a few, but I know exactly what you're talking about. G.K. Chesterton wrote a chapter in his book Orthodoxy called The Ethics of Elfland. And he says, like, why fairy tales and why those stories are so important. And he says, fairy tales are not important because they tell you that apples are golden. They're because they reveal to you like something about some fantastic. Fairy tales are not important because they reveal some distant fact you didn't know, that apples are golden. They're important because by telling you apples are golden, they reignite the moment that you discovered they were green. Right? To re-recognize that just because something is explicable does not make it any less incredible.
Dude, oh my God. That is something I really struggle with. Not me personally. I don't understand. We're going to get into a little bit of Jesus talk.
Good,
which we've already done a little bit. If you've listened to us in the past, you know, Zach and I are both Christians. We're both raised in the church.
We both like banging our heads against theology.
I left the church for a long while this year. Last December, I have come back. Anyway, one of the things I don't understand is the readiness to dismiss a thing because we know how it happened, but only when that thing is pertaining to religion or faith.
That's interesting.
We don't do that for anything else, just because, or very few things, just because we know that, a painting is ink on a canvas and someone, moved their hands in a specific way. That's what's happening. We mixed a dye with a thing, whatever. We know exactly how a painting happens, but it does not dissuade you from investing yourself emotionally in a piece of art when you engage with it.
Let it take you to something more than the sum of those things on that canvas, because it can.
And I think that creation is one of the idea that we did not just randomly evolve is one of the only things people apply that logic to. I'm not saying the Big Bang didn't happen, but because we know, or are decently convinced that a Big Bang happened, does not mean that it wasn't orchestrated. I'm not saying that evolution doesn't happen, but that doesn't mean that things were not orchestrated in a particular way to adapt
Yeah.
and to evolve.
Yeah, I think that we as a culture, and I would blame it primarily on the Enlightenment, which brought many good things, but I think that the problem is that it's that familiarity. Okay, I can now explain this thing, and therefore it is not wondrous. Right. And I think that's what's so special about a game like Uncharted. To look at that patch of snow that is the South Pole and go, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I will literally, Ernest Shackleton, die to be here right now. And I went to the pub. Actually, this is a little fun little side story.
Okay.
So I went to the pub of this guy. He's kind of the unsung hero of all of the Antarctica expeditions. He was on Shackleton's. He was on... I am blanking on his name. The other guy, the other big guy who did the Antarctica expeditions. And he went on a bunch of these expeditions, and he's just this average dude who, big brawny guy, he just went to the Antarctic like multiple times and then retired and opened a pub in Ireland that I went to. He's an incredible story about this guy where he was the last batch basically to set up camp before Shackleton went to the South Pole and never came back, like all the way to the South Pole and never came back. And he led...
Have we found him?
I don't know the answer to that question. That's an interesting question. But we... basically, this guy walked with the two other guys all the way back. One of them, fainted or couldn't move anymore, so he put him on carried him the whole way. They were about to die. They were still quite a few miles, over 10... I forget it was how many miles exactly, but over 10 miles in the snow away from base camp. And he left them there, walked back to base camp, told them where they were, and was about to walk all the way back to get them before they're like, dude, stop. You have walked from the South Pole back to the shoreline base camp by yourself, carrying someone else. Please stop. And he's just this dude. He's like, well, I gotta do the job, he's a great, interesting dude. I wish I remembered his name. I'll look it up. But anyway. Yeah, wonder. The wonder in the things that are explicable.
I listened to a what might be considered a sermon, but was more like a lecture at a college about art recently. I listened to it a few times, and it is focused on the importance of art to a Christian, to someone who is made in the image of God, and it being one of the most important things this guy was arguing.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
I need to listen to this.
And he started talking about magic, like if he believes in magic. He said yes, unequivocally. He believes in magic. Because the definition of magic is very skewed. And he gives this beautiful example. Or maybe I'm extrapolating my own example from this. But
that makes it better.
This is magic to me. When someone in the apartment above you can open their window and use a relic that has been passed down through a few generations of their family, and the sound that is emitted from that relic pull up emotions from your childhood and bring you to your knees weeping. I'm just talking about music, but that's magic. And that's what he's arguing, that magic is a very real thing in the world, and science has caused us to disregard it just because we know kind of what emotions are, that synapses are firing in our brain to bring up memories. I don't think that discredits any
agree.
of that.
I couldn't agree more. And I would argue most scientists would actually be more in tune with that than the people interpreting and reading the science. I bet you a lot of scientists are very in tune with the fact that what they're looking at is incredible and wondrous and beautiful and magical, and all the more reason to research it. Here's a picture of Tom Crean. Tom Crean is the name of that guy. He wasn't like the main explorer. He just was the best one there. He's incredible. That's good though. Yeah, you got to send me that lecture. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I will. I don't really have anything else to say about Lost Legacy. Because we introduced it at the beginning, we are a little obligated. So that's pretty much the end of this podcast. You can end it here. Don't forget to share what you love with who you love. However, we did say we were going to talk for a moment about Scorn, so let's go ahead and get that out of the way.
Yes, I did not like playing Scorn. For me, I think a puzzle should be the distance of the amount of time between you realizing how to solve a puzzle and implementing the solution should be minimal, unless you are very confident in how fun implementing that solution is.
Yeah.
A terrible example is from Deadly Premonition, where I walked into a room, I saw, I need to move these 3 statues to these 3 positions. And then it took me 4 minutes to move the statues to the right positions. That's bad game design.
Yeah, there's a puzzle like that in... there's definitely one in Scorn, but back to Lost Legacy.
Oh no.
My God, dude. There is a puzzle with... In fact, all of the puzzles here in the open area are slight variations on moving circles to create an image. Which I don't actually mind those puzzles very much. I kind of like them, but that's all that's available in this open area. The only thing. One of them is this large stone, these 3 large circles on a stone wall. You have to complete an image that's on the circle, which is what all of these puzzles are. You put together the image. However, each circle, one being inside the other, so you've got these 3 circles descending in size, is missing a 1/6 of itself. They are tucked off to the side of the wall. And so you can turn these circles or pull the entire side over. But the smallest piece is tucked first, then the next smallest, then the largest. But to finish the puzzle, you need the smallest piece inside of the circle first, because the openings can all line up. First, you got to line them up. Then you got to pull the large circle, the large piece of the circle in, put it on the other side. Take it off, take it back off of the circle and put it on the other side. Move back around and grab the middle circle, pull it in. Then move to grab the big circle again and take it off. Then move it all the way back and put it back in its original place. So now you can move the middle circle part off to the right side where it goes. Not where it's supposed to be, but so you can finally do all that 4 times to get the smallest piece into the middle. And then you keep repeating that 8 times or something to finally get the pieces all in at once. And maybe it was just late at night. Time was a little distorted. I don't know. It must have been 10 minutes. I was sitting there turning that. It was obvious.
Well, that's Scorn the game.
Pretty much.
Because, I mean, the distance between these puzzles, and first of all, Sprint does not have a toggle option.
Oh, I changed it to a mouse button.
That's smart. That's so smart. I should have done that. Yeah, because you are just running and running and running between these huge... And then, when it's trying to present... Because, honestly, the art, obviously, that's the main thing they're going for.
Oh, there's nothing else like it. So this is Geiger realized in ways that most people have never seen unless you've been over to his house for dinner. It's grotesque.
They nail it. They nail it.
Absolutely
That's
horrifying.
all they nail. That's all they nail. Because
there's no story here.
Yeah.
There's a very loose narrative that plays through. I wouldn't even call it a narrative. It's really, you're seeing the function of the machine from beginning to end. That's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And you being part of the machine.
Cool imagery, But cool imagery cannot sustain a video game.
Yeah.
And
not for 4 or 5 hours or whatever.
This should have been a walking sim. It would have been a great walking sim.
I'll disagree a little bit because actually I enjoyed most of the puzzles. There's one
Okay. It would have been
that
a
was
great,
way too long, like I was just talking about.
interesting. Maybe more than like Myst would be better, right?
Something with puzzles tucked all throughout, and the environments should have been a little tighter. The biggest
And no combat. There should have been no combat.
Yes, combat should have been taken out entirely. It's totally useless here. It's not fun. It does not serve the experience at all. Aside from just having more moist, sort of visceral sounds.
I feel like it was
it's
just
gross.
there to
It's
have
stupid.
the cool looking guns.
I think it's really dumb. They should not have put it in. So no combat. They should have tightened the areas or incorporated more puzzles. Because aside from combat, the next biggest complaint is that each area is massive and
Gigantic.
oh my god!
Unprecedented.
So like one of the puzzle I stopped playing on. I did watch a playthrough to finish this, but I think it was 2 nights ago now, or maybe it was 2 nights ago now. I finally decided to go back and finish it because you said it sucked. You finished it really quick, and you said, "No, don't waste your time." But what drove me to go back and finish it was that someone that we watch a lot, Skill Up, pretty highly recommended it. Admitting it's not for everyone. Honestly, focusing on a lot of the same faults that we're giving it, but he got a lot more out of it than we did. Which is cool for him. Glad for him.
Good for him. He hated Last of Us 2 as well, though. Not everybody can be right every time.
No, definitely not. But that's what drove me to go back and finish it to see if I got out of it, maybe what he did, and I did not. So I stopped about an hour before the end. And the last section that I finished, I guess I got maybe halfway through the next. But there's these elevators that are spheres. They're not just elevators. They take you around the place, up, down, horizontally, across walls, whatever. They're these spheres that you get in.
Falling asleep thinking about playing this game.
Oh, dude. You need to get an elevator to go up to the next area or down or whatever. Who cares? There are these crane arms that will move some of them. And there is not one to move and put on the correct wall in this area. It's this pretty sprawling area. There are 2 stories with... there's like 2 stories, one of which has 3 sub-stories. Little hallways that you can go down. So first you have to unlock a couple doors. Then you have to find the chamber that houses the additional sphere you need. Then you need to raise it up to the top of those, I guess, 4 stories that I've established here. Raise it up to the top. You need to move it into the center. So then you can walk across the gap where that elevator is supposed to be to the other side of this floor that you're on. Do part of the puzzle. Take it back. Do something with that little piece that you just got. Go down to the second of these 3 sub-stories I mentioned. Do the exact same thing again. Do that 3 times. Okay, then you need to move it all the way down, move the arm over. There's some combat. There's some new monsters that are introduced, a new gun. It's exhausting. It took me like an hour and a half to figure my way around this. And that's the entire game. An hour and a half figuring out what this one room is.
If you want a visually evocative experience that has much better puzzles, or sorry, maybe not much better, but much like quicker, effective, much faster, more effective puzzles, and really, hones its experience well. Play Dark, DARQ. That
Interesting.
is fulfilling it's scratching a similar itch way more effectively.
Wow, interesting. I didn't think you'd bring that up ever. I don't disagree with that.
I'm surprised that I still remember it because I didn't enjoy playing it a whole lot, but
really, I did enjoy the puzzles.
I mean, I enjoyed the puzzles, but like it wasn't an experience that stood out to me necessarily.
No.
But I remember it, and I remember even some of the puzzles still like are very clear in my head, and the visual style and the waking up, like I remember that game. They did their job.
Yes.
And they did it better than Scorn.
Yeah. You're never going to get these Geiger visuals probably again.
Yeah, if that's
ever.
When we were thinking about doing a full like gaming outlet style of media, we were talking about like what would we do for rankings? How would we rank a game? And one of our rankings was only play this if you're a super fan of whatever it's trying to do. So like Kingdom Hearts 3 this wouldn't be the score, but if I didn't like it as much as I did and think it had as much to offer as I did, I would maybe say like, okay, only play this if you're a big fan of Kingdom Hearts. I think you should only play Scorn if you literally need as much Giger as you can possibly inhale into your face.
And then if you do, seek therapy. There are ways to get help.
Yes.
Maybe we'll put a number in the description. But I've got a bunch of art books from Teshin that I left at my bookshelf at work. And occasionally, while on a long call or on hold or just on break, I would flip through them. One of which is not the complete works, but a good section, a good portion of Geiger's works. That stuff is disgusting, not safe for work. I was very embarrassed flipping through that, but also captivated and couldn't stop. It's disgusting. And if you need to pump Geiger through your veins, you need help.
And you need to play Scorn.
Yeah. Oh, dude, the end of that game is disgusting. We won't mention it here, but again, you are basically part of this machine, this huge flesh machine that is one hive mind. And so the game ends with you being fully assimilated into this machine.
There's some speculation that you're actually playing as two different characters, and the character you play in the first chapter who gets covered in all that slime is the parasite that latches onto you.
Okay, cool.
I don't know. I just looked that up. Just fun fact.
Oh.
It was just a fun fact of the day.
So that's kind of interesting, the way things are presented. So in the second chapter, there is this parasite that has human hands, that latches onto you, and it puts its hands in, like it rips open your stomach, puts its hands way up under your ribs, and starts driving you, basically. So when you pull up your inventory, he pulls out some items that he's stored in your body, and then your normal hands are holding the gun. So you've got the handle for the gun, the current attachment for it, and then the thing pulls out some other items, and you've just got these 4 hands in front of you for the inventory screen. That's pretty interesting. It's very gross every time you do that. And pretty much everything you do is gross every time you do it. Like going up an elevator. Aside from the sphere elevator that I was just talking about, to go up any normal elevator, there's this little turtle shell contraption in which you put 4 fingers into and you pull it. And then
just sinewy and
the thing that you pull your fingers out of then snaps back and the turtle shell shuts. It's like you're pulling these tendons forward, and you see these like jowls on the side of the turtle shells shake, and then it all snaps shut. It's just disgusting, and really, like, visually an achievement. It's really something special visually. The gameplay here, unfortunately, is just aimless. It's really not a well-designed game, a well-designed experience. We just talked about something that has 4 distinct parts, including walking, that are all meticulously balanced so the experience flows well. Here, you have 3 parts: the walking or running, doesn't matter. The running, the shooting, and the puzzles. All of them at any time they are introduced are too long and too far between. It needs to be reined in. I wish it had been. If there was a director's cut or something, I'd probably pick it up. Just if they could tighten that a bit, take out a couple of the corridors, take out most of the combat. I mean, it's not an integral piece, but if this imaginary director's cut, this cleaned up version were to come out, I'm sure they would still have a couple pieces of combat in there. It'd be fine, but everything needs to be reined in. It's cool that the puzzles are the entire level. They span the whole level. I do like that concept, but each of the steps in that are just so arduous. It's really a big flop for me, which sucks. I was really excited to see it.
Yeah, that's okay. It happens sometimes.
It does. Don't play Scorn. It's not a good use of your time. Go play Uncharted 4.
Yes.
Much better use of your time. Folks, that will officially be it. Now, if you did stick around, this is the end of our coverage of Uncharted 4. What a game, dude. What
So
a good game. I'm glad we could share that with each other, share that moment now in this point of our lives. Glad you could share that with your dad. That's very special.
Yeah,
Man, I remember meeting your dad for the first time, or maybe the second time. Like maybe we had seen each other at church or whatever, but came over to your house. You were a little late, either from school or work or whatever. I don't remember. You were a little late, so I got there before you did. And I was just talking to your dad in the kitchen, and my dad and I do not have a good relationship. Okay, we haven't spoken in a long time, and we really never have had a good relationship. But your dad was just making small talk with me. Oh, what are some of your hobbies? I eventually mentioned video games. He's like, oh, what sort of games do you like? I mentioned maybe a couple small things.
Probably Assassin's Creed back then.
Back then, I think I refrained from saying Assassin's Creed here. I said Metroid Prime, and he lit up, and like he knew it. And your dad doesn't play video games. He played Myst back in the day. He's definitely shared that a few times. But he doesn't play video games. He just paid attention to you. That's all.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, a dad.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
He's a good
I'm really
one.
happy you could share that with him. That must have been so fun.
He had a great time. Great time.
Yeah. It's a really good one. But folks, definitely try it out. It's on PC now, so really pretty much everybody can play it. I feel like most Xbox users probably have a PC at this point. And if you don't have a PlayStation and have a PC, it's on PC as of last month. Go play Uncharted 4. It won't hit as hard if you've not played the other ones, but it is still very, very good.
Yeah, plenty of people played just this one and went back and played the others.
Yeah.
And still loved it.
And you can probably pick up a PS4 super cheap, play the remastered versions, that 3-pack you can get for $10 or whatever. So yeah, definitely seek out Uncharted. It's a one of a kind series that spanned what's it been now? 16 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. When was Drake's Deception?
2006.
06. Yeah.
Oh, Drake's Fortune.
Fortune. That's right.
Yeah. 06. So I think that's 16 years.
Oh my god.
It's been a long time. Well, I mean, the game ended, several
2016.
years ago now. So 10 years.
Yes, 10 years.
So it was
10
10 years.
year saga.
Yeah. But for us, it has not left our thoughts. It has come up often enough. And finally wrapping it up here as an adult was so special. You owe yourselves that, at least, to go check out one of, if not the best treasure hunting game out there. The best, let's say. The best. It's good stuff. Folks, join us on Discord. You can find the link in the description. Maybe check out that song. It's very, very sweet. And Mandolin Orange is quite a good band. But yeah, we want to chat about games. We want to chat about how they make you feel. We're trying to build a community here that of like-minded folks that want to share games with other people. So come join us on Discord. You can find that link in the description. And please do not forget to share what you love with who you love.